There we go. Hi, Diana. How are you?
Good. How are you, Sandy?
I'm good. How are you feeling today? It's so nice. It's warmer, way warmer out than I thought it was.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
You can even feel the humidity. There's a bit of humidity in
I,
there.
I think it's gonna last for a while. Anyway, I suppose okay, that's fine. Because sometimes my Facebook like starts to play and then it's kind of behind, so I'm talking and then I hear myself.
Oh,
Anyway, today is Tuesday, of course, at 1 o'clock. So that means we are live on the flip side with Diana and Sandy. Today is question and answer. So we're going to answer any questions. If you have questions, if you're watching, and you have questions, you can absolutely type them in the chat and we will deal with them. If you have questions at a later date that you want to know, you can either reach out to either of us. You can direct message us. You can put a question in the chat even if you're watching this as a recorded session, and we will get to it and we will address it. We do address any questions that people ask us. So Diana, I think we'll talk about some, the biggest thing that I'm hearing lately and that I'm talking to a lot of clients about, and then we can get to that in a second, but what do you think is like the biggest question, I guess, that you get or that you've heard recently that people are curious about when it comes to investing?
if the prices of houses are too high and if we should invest now or wait. I feel like that always is the same question all the time. Doesn't matter.
That never matters, right? It never matters. It's too hard
Yeah.
to time the market. That's the problem. We've
Mhm.
talked about that endlessly. Like you can't time the market because it's a historical thing, right? So by the time you realize that the market is going up or the market is going down, it's too late. That's why you can't. That's why it's really hard to time the market. So that's
Yeah.
why I think it's important to have a strategy. Like, what's your strategy for investing? Have a strategy, and then you can work it, right? Like, I think that's it. What's your strategy? What is it you want to do in this investing world, and then work it that way? Would you
I agree.
agree? Yeah,
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 I agree. And also, I mean, baby steps, right? Make it a strategy that you can't fail at, like that, like buying a house that you're going to tenant and you're planning to keep it forever or a long time, right?
yeah,
So like that, if you buy high, doesn't really matter because it's in the long run, it's going to even out. You'll be still making money, more than even out, but you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
sooner or later, you'll even out and then you'll be making a lot more money, if you sell, because usually it's the appreciation part that you're waiting for it to go up so that if you bought it a high amount.
Yeah, sorry, I just
But
want to make a note here because you just said something that I think is a really important point, and I'm going to get to that in my question. So I just want to make a note
mhm.
about that because we'll talk about that as we go along. Um, yeah, I think you're right. You know what? Because there's always, so here's how I look at it, and I've always looked at this in the real estate business as well. There's going to be somebody who's going to get into the investing world and make money today. Somebody is getting into the investing world and going to make money today. And by today, I mean every day, right? So even in those markets where people think you can't make money, somebody is becoming an investor today that's going to make money, right?
Mhm.
So you have to just shift your way of thinking, right? There's always an opportunity. You just have to shift your way of thinking. Like I read this story about, I think I can't remember if it's Kodak. I think it's Kodak. And um, is it Kodak that's no longer in business?
I don't know.
I think it's
uh
Kodak.
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's Kodak. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But so Kodak is, we used to take pictures with a camera and then you would take the film in and you would get the film developed. And when phones started to become, or Minolta, one or the other, phones started to become popular, they had the opportunity to go digital and they said, oh, that'll never happen. And
Mhm.
now look where they are. Like they're not a business anymore. I'm pretty sure it's Kodak. Anyway, that just proves like there is always an opportunity. You may have to shift or you may have to pivot a little bit, but there's always that opportunity, right? And there's a lot of companies in the past that didn't do that shift, right? If you read the story about Honda, right? If
Mhm.
you read the story about Honda, that's a fascinating story.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's a fascinating story because he had so many setbacks and so many, like, he started off just building these little like a bike, and then a bike that was powered and all this kind of stuff. And his businesses kept getting like
Shut
decimated
down,
for
or
different
yeah.
reasons. Like he started during the war, and then his factory got bombed and all these kind of things, and he kept going and kept going, and eventually he got turned down for his motors and stuff, and eventually now it's Honda. So all those stories are really fascinating. It's just, you just got to find a way to pivot, right? So don't get stuck in that mindset of, oh my God, the market's going down. Like I've seen that 31 years in real estate. I've seen that where agents are all, you know, talking about how bad the market is and you can't make money and this and that and this and that. And then a new agent comes in and blows everybody out of the water. Why is that? Because they're not preconditioned to listen to that stuff. They're not preconditioned. Nobody has told them that the market is going to crash. Nobody has told them that you can't make money. So I think it makes a big difference. But
just everyone will always fail, and the what sets the difference is that you pick yourself up and continue. You learn from it and continue forward, which is what it sounds like what the owner of Honda did, right?
yes,
Like these
yes,
setbacks came to him, and I'm sure he was like, okay, now what do I do? How do I figure this out? How do I move forward? You're always wanting to move forward. It doesn't matter if it's like a little micro step or big steps, but you just want to make sure you're moving in the right direction. And as long as you're always in that mindset of learning, that's very, very important, because that's when failures become your end.
yes,
If you decide not to continue learning, and like you said, maybe it was Kodak that maybe their business went out of, if they went out of business, probably because their mindset was fixed, and they
yeah,
didn't want to pivot and learn and keep up with the market. And what happened, their end goal was it was a failure, because they didn't, even when they saw things going down, they probably should have been like, okay, let's
yes,
still, like, okay, clearly we have to go digital, let's make a move,
yeah,
right?
yeah. They went down with the sinking ship.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to really not like that word failure anymore or fail, because you learn way more from the things that don't work out for you than the things that do. So I don't
Yeah.
think they're failures. I think they're obstacles, and you got to be like water, just go
Yeah.
around. Just
What's
go.
funny for me, I don't actually mind the word failure, but I think it's, again, like being an athlete in the past, like failure wasn't seen as a bad thing. So I guess
Right.
that's why I don't have like that, because I know a lot of people think like failure is the end goal. For us, it was like, okay, I failed, like now I need to tweak this, change this to continue moving forward.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've never seen it as such a negative thing. It was just more of, okay, I made a mistake, I need to fix it if I
Yeah.
want to continue improving.
Yeah.
But
You
if it
learn
is,
so
if
much
that's
more.
like a trigger word for anyone, then obviously you want to change the wording so it doesn't trigger you, because you obviously like that. You want to make sure that it's not going to also stop you from doing things. Like you hear the word failure and then it's like just like, bringing out a negative thing, then you also don't want that. Then maybe changing the word is also
Yes,
important in that sense too.
for sure. That makes sense. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's a whole other discussion for our mindset Tuesdays. But anyway, I
So
digress.
what have
Okay.
you been hearing about from
So the biggest thing that I've been hearing about and that I've been talking to my clients about and educating them about is when you have a lot of equity in a principal residence and taking that money out and investing it in real estate.
Mhm.
So a lot of people don't understand that, and their goal is to pay off their mortgage on their principal residence, which to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have a house with a lot of equity in it. So if you go to, I think it's Canada Credit or Canada Debt, whatever, um, and actually Google good debt versus bad debt, you'll see that they consider that there is good debt, and there is. And good
Mhm.
debt is described as any debt a debt that you're incurring, but that asset will increase, right?
Mhm.
So a car is not good debt. Credit card debt is not good debt. School loans are good debt because that asset of you learning is going to increase your wealth as you go along. Homes are good debt. So because they're going to increase. So here's what I want to tap into. because you said something earlier, and I think this is a really important point that I think a lot of people miss. Think about if you're going to succeed, the best way to succeed is to find somebody who's done what you've already done and copy them, right? Who are the wealthiest? What are the wealthiest businesses in this country? The banks, right? So look at what the banks do, and just think about that for a minute. So the banks, sorry, driving me crazy. The banks will you can leverage the banks to buy real estate. So if you think about that, they are the wealthiest businesses in this country. They continue to be wealthy, and they will give you 80% loan to value ratio to purchase real estate, right? And in some cases, up to 95% if you're a first time buyer. So what does that mean? That means that you can say to the bank, let's say you want to buy a house for $1 million. You can say to the bank, I have $600,000. I have $200,000. Can you lend me $800,000 so I can buy this $1 million home? And they'll say yes. So what does that tell you? Like, you just got to think about that. What does that tell you, right? Or in some cases, depending on the price of the house and depending on your personal situation, they'll lend you up to 95%. So if they are willing, what other thing could you go to the bank and ask that? You can't go to the bank and say, I have $200,000. Can you give me another 800? I want to buy stocks. They won't do it. There's nothing, they will. So you're using other people's money to buy real estate, to buy an asset. And the banks will lend you money on that because they know that that asset is going to increase. So that's, when people talk about the market crashing and the market coming down and real estate's going to lose value, if you just look at the fact that the banks will finance it, that in itself should tell you that that is not going to happen. And if they come down, they are going to go back up. So there is a reason that the banks will loan up to 80%. And that's because the banks know that it will never go down lower than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Right?
It will never go down.
That's right. They know it's not going to, like, you've said this several times on this program where, people think when the prices go down, they're going to go down by 50%. Like, that just doesn't happen. Like, when people hear the word, and I think it's partly because people use the word crash, like it's going to crash. So overnight, but that's not what happens. The banks lend up to 80% because they know that's the threshold. That's the bottom of where it's going to go down. And then it's going to come back up again. And that is seen over and over again. So I think when you have a house and you've got a lot of equity in it, that house sitting there with all that equity is not helping you, especially because that money, you're not investing that money. And if inflation is 4 or 5%, you're losing that. In fact, you're losing money. So taking the money out to so you can spend more and pay your credit cards off and run them up again. No, absolutely not. But taking the money out to purchase real estate is a very good investment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think I remember one time I was speaking to someone that had a lot of money, and I was kind of like, why aren't you buying houses? You make a lot of money,
Yeah.
And I just randomly made the comment of like, why don't you just get the tenants to pay for your mortgage? And then she was kind of like, oh, I never thought of it that way. And I'm like, yeah, like not only, and then in that way you can maybe even pay off the mortgage faster because you have money from the tenants coming in, and if you want, you could do lump sum or add on to it to bring down the mortgage more if you wanted to do that. And then she was just kind of in shock. She was just like, she didn't even think of that, and I was just kind of like, because that was always actually my mentality. Is like, I would love to have tenants, if they can pay my mortgage for me, why not?
Yeah.
So I just bringing it out there because some people, I guess, don't think of it in that way also.
Right. And that's basically what you do with a BRRRR, right? You are buying a property, you're rehabbing it, then you're refinancing it and taking some of that equity out and buying another one. That's like when people own several houses, that's how I was able to create wealth for myself, going from, heavily in debt to being now, owning several businesses and owning several investment properties. That's how I was able to do it. I started with real estate, refinanced, took some money out, bought another property, then the same thing with that, let that sit, it went up, took some money out, and then bought another property and done that several times over and over again. Because sitting there with no, with equity in that house isn't helping you, especially when somebody's in there and they're covering those costs. So I think something else that holds people back is they say, well, I don't want to be a landlord. And there's a lot of ways to invest in real estate without being a landlord, right? There's pre-construction. We have a pre-construction program that's going on right now, a learning program to teach you how to buy those properties where you're going to make the most amount of money. And a gentleman who's done that has made several hundreds of thousands of dollars with pre-construction in the last few years, that runs a teaching program so you can learn how to do that. There's pre-construction, there's new construction, there's REITs, there's second mortgage, private mortgage money that you can lend out. And people get scared because it's, higher. Is it higher risk? I don't think it's higher risk. Private funds, in most cases, you're only going up to 85%, or sorry, 80% anyway. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, you can be on, there's so many different things. There's lots of people, for example, like that. Let's say the market went up a lot as it has in the last 2 years. And a lot of people now are at, like, let's say 60% loan to value. You can top it off for them to make it to 80%,
right,
and you're still feeling safe. You're on a second, you're behind, let's say, a bank or some other institution, but you're still within that 80%, which is like
yeah,
that. It is a very safe, because I mean, if the banks are doing it, they're doing it for a reason. And it's only not like that 80% is also, it will never go down 20, because banks also take into consideration in that 80%, the lawyer fees are actually also considered in that. They also consider that if they have to go through a foreclosure process, that 20% covers also the lawyer's fees, so that they make sure they're getting all their money back. So even
right,
a price of houses would never go down more than I wouldn't go close to 20%.
yeah,
Maybe 15, I don't know. Maybe
yeah,
that 15% may be a crash or something.
yeah. So, yeah, and I mean, that doesn't happen overnight. That takes years for that to happen, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not like today a house is worth $1 million and tomorrow it's worth 800,000, right? That's typically not how it works. So I think that's the biggest thing that I'm seeing in people, just not understanding that concept, right? And I get it, it's kind of nerve wracking. I know people get nervous, like they just want their house paid off, they don't want to have to pay a mortgage, and I understand that. But when somebody else is paying that mortgage for you, then you're in a good position. And then you're also, you're first of all, that person is paying your mortgage, paying you every month because the principal is coming down, but you're building equity in that house. And you can't build equity, you can't save as fast as you can build equity.
Oh
So
yeah, it's crazy. Even before COVID, like in a 5 years had gone by. This is probably a year before COVID. A year? Yeah, a year before COVID. The price of my house almost doubled, and that was not in COVID times. That was
yeah,
within 5 years. And it's just, I would have never made that kind of money in 5 years. I mean, I didn't, I didn't make that kind
yeah,
of money in 5 years.
right,
So it's just kind of, yeah. And I guess another thing that I would just also say, I mean, for people that are scared, I guess, to borrow the money to put it into a house, just have a plan.
yeah,
Have a plan of, like, let's say if they like having money saved for 6 months. Again, it's not very likely that it will happen, because there's so many tenants, there's so many people that need places to stay, that vacancy won't really happen.
yeah,
The only thing I think people would really worry about is if you get a bad tenant. But if you're
yeah,
worried about that, I feel like hire an expert that knows how to hire good tenants and knows how to vet them properly. Because when you get a good tenant, like, I don't know, I've never had any problems with
yeah,
any of my tenants, but we definitely do vet them and make sure that they're good quality tenants.
yeah. The reality is the majority of tenants are good. But you're only hearing about the bad ones. You're not hearing about the good ones, right?
And
So
also, I feel like another big issue that happens, let's say with tenants, is a miscommunication. right? So sometimes you may also have a bad tenant, but then what happens is some people are, for example, like I saw the situation come up and I found it so strange that this person in their agreement, they asked for checks. And then halfway through, I guess the tenant decided to do e-transfers, probably no more checks. This person, the landlord wanted to evict that person, was trying to figure out how to evict that person because they were doing e-transfers instead. And I was just kind of like, one, that's not even allowed because you're still getting paid. But I was just kind of like, where's your mindset at? Like, this person is still paying you and just switch to e-transfer, and it's just and then like that, and then and then the relationship was ruined, and it just ended up going bad. And
Yeah,
I feel like that happens on both sides, like if you don't leave the lines of communication open and you're not willing to hear it out or make a plan, like even I had a situation once with my tenant where she called me crying because she got robbed, like someone stole money from her bank account.
yeah,
And so she had to go through a whole investigation and everything. And so she called me letting me know that don't cash the check in because it's just gonna bounce back. And she's like, I'll send you, like this is how she's like, I'll send you the bank manager's details. You can call him, you can verify that it's true, that I'm not lying, like all this stuff. And I'm just like, don't worry, it's okay. And she's like, but I'll for sure have it there by the 14th. And I'm like, okay, I'll call you back at around that time and just check up on you. And she had the money and that, on time. And it was just, like because she told me immediately. And and like that we carried, like I didn't stress her out even more, being like, oh my God, you need to do it right now, right now. You need to find wherever from anywhere, you need to find that money right now because you need to pay it on the first, right on the, like some people are just kind of going like nuts for some reason. Then if you're going nuts on them, like you're just gonna make the situation worse for them because now they're stressed and then now you're creating like that negative energy. And
yeah,
then next time it could be even more worse situation.
for sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think maybe sometimes people feel like if they have checks, they're more secure because they have a check. I don't know. But
Mhm.
I mean, realistically, you can't do that anymore. Like you have to use the new landlord forms and they say right on there, you can't force,
Mhm.
you can ask for checks or whatever, but you can't enforce that.
Worth
You
it,
just don't
yeah.
have to pay. I mean, who has checks? I don't even have checks.
Yeah,
I
that's what
don't
I
have
mean. A lot
checks.
of people, yeah, a lot of people don't
Yeah,
even really have checks anymore.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, it's very true. And I mean, I don't know, like I just felt like just yeah, like you said, kind of get with the times then,
yeah,
like
yeah.
to see
There's
how it
not
goes
really,
with the
yeah,
e-transfers, if it's late all the time, then again another communication happens, like,
right.
hey, what's going on? Why are you having issues with this? Should I
Yes,
set a calendar meeting for you a day before to remind you, set yourself one, whatever, like find solutions, don't find problems is what
yeah.
I say, like some people I
But
feel like they're trying to create more problems than and just change that mind to be more open to figure out what's going on with them, right? Like on
yeah,
again, both sides, landlord or tenant, right?
yeah,
Like okay, even with a tenant, like I can't make my payments, but if you come in like, hey, I can't make my payments, but I'm gonna structure it in this way, so you'll still get it, just it may be different. Great. Then it's just like okay, at least I can see you're working with me, I'm working with you. We can figure something out, and the money's still making it. You know.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. There's
Finding
always a way. There's
solutions.
always, sorry?
I was saying finding solutions. Don't
Yes.
don't
There's
find
always, there's
problems
always
for
a way.
yourself.
There's always a way. But if you don't want to, if tenants are not your thing and you really don't want to have tenants, there's a number of different ways to invest in real estate without buying properties that are going to have tenants in them. So, that's something you got to have a discussion about, with we sit down and do that with people all the time in terms of teaching them, how can you invest this money to get a return on your investment that's going to be, I mean, let's face it, it's not hard to get more return on your investment than you are from the bank. And what is the bank paying now? 0.025% interest. So, with no signs of that going up anytime soon. So I think we need to like just figure out what are different ways to invest. But when you've got all that money sitting there, it's a good way to secure your future. And then, you know, if you are secure in your future with investments, and you think about it, even if that house comes down a little bit, you've got other money out there that you're investing. And the more you learn, the more you learn. So once you learn a little bit about investing, you'll start figuring out other ways to invest. And then you just grow that. You grow a little nest egg for yourself, for your retirement or whatever. Who knows? You don't know like what job is secure, right? If you look at Jim Carrey's story, right? So Jim Carrey, what his dad always wanted to be a comedian. But his dad didn't want to leave his secure job to become a comedian because he wanted the income. And then he lost his job and he was devastated. And so when Jim Carrey became a comedian, he said, there's no security in either of these. So if I'm not going to have security, I'm going to have some fun doing it, right? You know, so there really is no security in anything. So if you lose your job, or you know, you get to that point where you don't want to work at that job anymore, you've got some options because you've got investments, you've got some passive income coming in or whatever, and it's not so stressful. So I think I personally just think it's a waste to have a lot of equity in a principal residence, you know, and not use it to your advantage.
100% agree. And like that's like, if you are worried about it, have someone that's done what you've done to guide you through it. Because even if you have to pay them to get their knowledge, but you will benefit from it probably within the year, you know, like it'll probably, depending on how quickly you want to move, that money comes back to you quite quickly.
Yeah, but I think it's, sorry, I just want one thing I just want to say, I'm going to interrupt you on that, is I don't think we can't look at it as paying someone. We need to look at it as investing, because when you're investing in knowledge, it's like I say, it's good debt, right? I paid somebody a lot of money to teach me financial literacy because I felt like I didn't know that, and it was, you know, it was making me nervous. I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what to do and stuff like that. So I hired somebody, I paid them a lot of money to teach it, but have I made that back in probably 10 times what I spent on that? So it's the same thing. Like if you're going to go to university, we think it's perfectly acceptable to pay for university or to pay for college. But then when it comes time to paying someone to teach you things like that, we get nervous. And I think that's the wrong approach. We should be spending, you know, somewhere around 10% of your income every year on personal growth, personal knowledge, personal growth of some sort. That could be, you know, learning, seminars, learning, you know, things like that. And I think the number one way to do it, if you don't have the money right now to invest, is books. Buy books and read books. Listen, you know,
or even
library
app, even
library
apps.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's like so many things that you can do to help you learn. And like that, you'll see, like, fine, you have to go the free route, but you'll see as you progress, the money will start coming, and then maybe you're buying the books, or buying buying some kind of mentorship or whatever it is. Because it's true, it's funny, we can spend a lot of money in degrees or diplomas or certificates, but then, you know, it's like only those group of things, and then you don't realize there's so many other things that you can educate yourself with. But for some reason, it's just like in schools, it's like anything, only what's in university, only what's in, you know, college, only what's like considered a certification. And anything entrepreneur related, investment related, doesn't really have, for some reason, that level of like, we should have diplomas for real estate investing. Maybe people would feel more comfortable if it's a diploma, you know?
Yes, or any type of investing. You know, our kids taught that in school. They're not taught about investing. They're not taught about mortgages. What is a mortgage? I mean, the average person coming out of school has no idea what a mortgage is. I think these things are really important to learn. What's the difference between a mortgage and just a regular loan? But there's just so many ways, you know, like I say, if you're going to take the money out and pay down your credit cards and run them up again, then that's not a good idea. But, you know, if you're investing in improving your home and moving up to another one, or investing in other real estate in a number of different ways, it's always advantageous to you.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Or oh, the one thing I was going to say, it slipped my mind as you were saying it, but you were saying about like paying for mentoring and coaching and stuff, but even like the investor group that you have is a form of mentoring, right? You have investors, you're connecting them all together, and that doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything to connect and put a group together that can teach you these things. And that's what you've done, right? Where you
Yeah.
have this investor group where people network, and they don't all invest in the same way. They invest in different ways, but they can help each other. You can get ideas, and how do I shift this? How do I do this? This isn't working. How can I make this better, kind of thing? And there's power in that. There's so much power in that connection.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Actually, it's funny you say that because in one of my last shows, one of the guests were talking about specifically exactly that. If you don't have money, they're saying that a majority of actually what they've learned, because they've had a mentor, but they've actually learned quite a bit from the community, because when you
Yeah.
start meeting people, everyone's sharing information. And like you said, and it's kind of nice, especially if you're a new person coming in, because you normally have no idea what you're doing, and you want to do every single strategy for some reason. I don't know
Yes.
why this happens. You want to do everything, and and then you're overextending yourself. But then as you talk to different people and learn all their what they each do and why they're doing it for themselves, then you start kind of reining in and deciding, oh, you know what, this works for my lifestyle, that works for my way of being, whatever it
Yeah.
is. And yeah, even that's very true. So getting to know, but like taking advantage of your community, because
Yeah.
like that, even in the community that I have, there's only like a small select of people that actually interact with each other and want to actually build those relationships. And a lot of them are always asking like, I need help with learning, I need help with this, I need help with that. And I'm like, why aren't you talking to the people in the community?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Because you when you do different, like when you do a lot of different things, you learn which ones resonate with you and which ones you like. And when you find the ones that just, you like, they seem to be easy, right? Like
Yeah.
that's whatever comes really easy to you is your gift. And
Mhm.
and we don't understand that sometimes. We think, well, that's just like that's easy. That just, you just do it. But
Yeah.
it's your gift. And I think that's how sometimes we overlook our gift, and we try to, when I was young, they would say work on your weak spots, where why are you don't work on your weak spots? Hire someone to do those things, and work on the things you're good at, and make them better and better all the time.
Mhm.
I think that's
Yeah.
good.
And definitely experimenting and getting to know, because it's very true actually what you were saying, that for example, for me, something I found very, very interesting that I didn't know in myself was like that I'm very into real estate investing. So now I deal a lot with uh private, like buying from the owners themselves if I
Yeah.
can. And I always had a negative view on sales and negotiation. And specifically at the very beginning of me investing in, I knew that I have to talk to the homeowners, but I was always just like that mindset of like salesmen are scammers, negotiation are scammers, all they care is like about themselves. And that really was very hard for my core, because I was like, I don't want people to think I'm a scammer. I don't want people to think that I'm like trying to take from them, And I remember at the beginning, I had such a hard time with it. And then once
Yeah. I'm
my
laughing.
mentor specifically switched it around, and
Yes.
they're like, why are you even trying to sell to someone? And I'm just like, I don't know, like, isn't that what sales is? And
Yeah.
they're like, no, you're not selling to someone. They're like, you're trying to solve a problem for them. That is what sales is. And then obviously negotiation is like, then you're trying to figure out like what works for you, what like find the, what's the
The middle
win-win for
ground.
both of you, right? Yeah. And as soon as I like did that switch, where I was like, I can do that, like, because that's basically what I've been doing my job. Like, I'm always there to solve problems, and I actually love it. Like, I love solving problems. Like, that to me is like my most favorite thing to do. It's like someone gives me a problem, and I'm just like, ooh, how can I fix this? Like, what can I do? And from there, I found out that I'm very good at negotiating and selling, and or I guess buying houses, like sales at like I guess
Yes.
skills. And it was something that I would have never known about myself because of my views on it and
Yes.
me not actually understanding what sales is and what negotiation is. And I mean, viewing, I guess, the negative side of it. Like some people, yes, they do only care about the money and they only want to just make their buck, whatever. But the good salesmen don't, work
Yes.
with that in that aspect, right? They're about helping and supporting and finding solutions. And so I just found it really funny because experimenting is such an important thing for people to do, especially, I have to say that's kind of sad, but for a lot of teenagers and kids right now, because like parents are so burnt out, they don't really do that much for their kids. Like they're on their computers all the time. And like I know like a few families where their kids are so lost they don't know what to do in their lives, and it's because their parents never like put them in activities. Like I was so busy as a kid. Like I did like everything of everything. My parents were like, "Oh, you're interested in woodwork? Let's put you in a thing. See if you like it." "Oh, you're interested in learning how to do diving?" They'd put me in diving. "Oh, you love drawing? Oh, you like to make sculptures?" Like I did so many things because my parents were like on a mission to like help us find what we like, you know?
Yeah, that's
And a
amazing.
lot of people don't do that with their kids.
Yeah.
So a lot of people coming out of high school, going into university are so lost because they just don't know. They don't know anything about themselves. They don't know what they're good at, and they're just starting to learn now. It's like, man, you're going into your 20s and you're just now starting to learn about yourself, and then that's why you have so many kids lost, because they never had that opportunity when they were young to actually get involved in so many different things and actually find out what is it actually I'm interested in.
Yeah. 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 And I think, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think just, it's especially what's been going on lately, but we can all like teach each other, like just reach out and, learn. I think books are the best way to learn about this kind of stuff and learn about what you like. And you can learn about so many different things if you're a reader, or I mean, Googling as well. I mean, you can find out things, so many different ways to find out what you like, what your niche is. But you said a lot of different really good points there. And I'm trying to recall some of them, bring them back so we can maybe elaborate on those a bit. Um, but yeah, I can't think of any right now, of course. Now I'm thinking about what I'm thinking about. That's the problem. But actually, the one thing that you did say was when you, okay, this is what I was the point that I think you really made well was, I mean, the sales paradigm is a big thing, right? And you're saying about how you didn't want to come across as a salesperson. Well, I think most salespeople struggle with that. I struggled with that for years in the real estate field. And then as soon as I shifted how I looked at it, the same as you, as soon as I shifted how I looked at it and realized we're changing people's lives here by helping them buy real estate. We're changing people's lives by helping them build up that secure future. And whether they know it or not, that's what we're doing. And when you shift how you look at things, what you look at changes, right? So that's what you got to do. All you did was shifted how you looked at it. You shifted it, looking at it from being a salesperson to looking at it to being an educator, which is on our team very much what we try to do, is just educate people, give them all the information that we can possibly give them, and let them make a decision from there. That decision sometimes is, it's better for me to stay where I am. Sometimes that is the decision, who knows? But when you, like I say, when you just shift in how you look at something, it will totally look different to you. So
Yeah.
I think
And finding
that's a
out
really
what
important
is
thing.
the part that bothers you. Because, like
Right.
that, like, to me, it was really like it just didn't go with my core values because
Yeah.
I'm not a person that likes to cheat people. And I just it was like it would, so then obviously I was doing terrible at talking to people because I mean, everyone can feel everyone's energy, right? If I am in an energy where I'm just like, oh, like, do you want to buy, I want to buy your house, like,
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
obviously gonna be like something, no, I don't want to sell you the
yeah,
house because you're already feeling so guilty about buying it, you know?
yeah. But you're helping them. You're solving, like you say, you're solving a problem, right? Some people are, for whatever reason, they've got to get out from under this house for whatever reason.
Well, that's
Um,
what it was, right? Because when
yeah,
I would now talking to them, it's now not even anything related about the house, right? I don't really even talk to them about the house. I'm talking to them about understanding, what's going on,
yeah,
why are you needing to sell, like in what are like, understanding the circumstances to be able to better give them a solution, right? Because like, yeah, maybe selling the house isn't what they need to do,
yeah,
but finding out what is the actual problem behind it that's causing them to sell the house is
right.
now, like at least for me, that's how I work. Because like that, I like to problem solve. That's what I'm good at. So I'm
Yeah,
always looking at in that sense, like you said, like that's like how I figure it out, like how I can use my skills, right? For you,
yeah,
like you're saying, like you really like educating people. So obviously you go the route of like education because those are probably your core values. You're just like, I want to impart so much knowledge to people, you know?
yeah. Because I think the more you're educated about a person, like a situation, the more options you have. And the more options you have, the better off you are. You're always like, it's always good to have options. So, it's when you feel like you have no options, then you feel like you've got your back against the wall. And you maybe you're making a decision you don't really want to make because you kind of feel forced to make it. But if you have options, it's never a bad thing, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then you
yeah,
feel like you have more control
of
of
course.
your life.
That's,
It's
yeah,
mainly what it is. Because if you're just kind
yes,
of in that corner and it's like, this is all it is,
yeah.
I feel like you lose a lot of your control. You feel like you're losing control in that sense.
Yes, yes. So we're getting on 146. So here's what I'll say. So if you're watching this and you do have a lot of equity in your home and you're interested in finding out more about how to unlock that equity and use it to buy more real estate, then reach out. We're happy to answer any of those questions. Obviously, or I shouldn't say obviously, there is no cost, there's no obligation to that. Learning what your options are is always free, and we're always happy to discuss it with you. If you're, if you have a lot of equity in your home and you're gung ho to do this, let's talk. We'll show you what all your different options are, how you can invest in real estate, how you can get that money out of your house, because that's another question some people just don't know. They pay their mortgage, but don't understand how they can unlock that equity that they have in their house. And there's some great programs out there that will help you do that. We can help you, guide you in that direction. We have a team of mortgage brokers and everything to help you get to that stage and get some information. On that note, we're going to wrap this up. So we will be back next Tuesday, live again. And I think it's mindset.
Yeah, I think it's
Really
mindset.
need to get this under control.
It's mindset. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're on mindset now.
Yeah, okay.
And I
So
just wanted to let anyone who's interested in knowing, getting more understanding real estate investing more, connecting with people. I have my monthly networking events the last Thursday of every month. And this month actually may be interesting to you guys. We're going to be actually talking about OPM, other people's money.
other people's
Um,
money,
so
favorite subject.
yeah, it's a very
Yeah.
interesting topic. So if you're interested in hearing about it, definitely come and join. You buy one ticket and you get three other ones. So you'll get four tickets and you can decide what you want to do with those four, which events you want to go to for those four tickets.
Yeah, and it's online, right?
And it's virtual. Yeah, it's on Zoom.
Yeah. So that worked perfectly with our that tied right into other people's money there. That wow, we're pretty
Yeah.
good at this, Diana.
Again, it's a good timing, right?
You'd think we arranged that or something, but we actually didn't. But anyway,
I think
okay,
just
awesome.
everyone's talking a lot about money because even the last networking event was about private lending, how to
Yeah,
lend out your money, what to do with it, how it works. So
yeah.
just
Well,
it's I think it's a hot topic because like exactly you said, it's a lot of people are wanting to do invest, right? And it's just kind of, we're
yeah.
here to provide you all the different solutions that are out there so that you can figure out what works for you.
Yes. And money's an important part of that, because you have to have money to, you don't have to have money to do this at the beginning. You can start with very little money, which is people don't understand, but money is just energy. Money is energy. The more you put out there, the more you get back. It's as simple as that.
100%.
So, okay, so we're going to wrap this up, and we'll be back next Tuesday.
Awesome. It was nice chatting with you, like
You
always,
too,
Sandy.
as always. See you
Bye,
later.
everyone.
Bye.